There are two kinds of silence. The first is the one you get in a library or a church, that heavy, respectful hush thick with the ghosts of unspoken words. But the second kind, that's something else entirely. That's the silence of the future. It's the whisper-quiet hum of 400 volts of refined lithium-ion potential, the sound of a car that breathes electricity instead of gasoline. That second silence, man, that became my new favorite sound in the world. See, I drive a Stallion E, a spaceship with wheels, all angular chrome and purring electronics, the kind of car that makes you believe we're living in the future whether you like it or not. For me, it wasn't just a ride, it was a declaration. I'm all about torque, tech, and never having to stop at a gas station on my way to work again. That car, she was my pride and joy. But here's the catch. I live in Pleasant Valley Homes, which, if you ask me, is less a neighborhood and more an ongoing experiment in how many shades of beige the human eye can endure before going insane. This place, it's so tranquil, so aggressively normal, that the annual synchronized sprinkler test is considered a highlight. So, rolling my Stallion E into that world, it was like unleashing a TIE fighter among a herd of Shetland ponies. And to keep my beast fed, I got myself a sleek Level 2 charger, installed flush on my garage wall, black and silver, smooth as a monolith, discreet as I could make it. Apparently, that was all it took to set off Carol. Yeah, Carol, the self-appointed warden of all things HOA, a woman who policed mailbox heights with the zeal of a border agent and sent poor Mr. Henderson a violation notice because his garden gnome dared to rock a Speedo. She wore her authority like a badge and stalked the streets with the grim determination of someone trying to catch a serial jaywalker. First came the curtain twitching, the kind of low-level surveillance only a certain brand of neighbor can perfect. And then the ambush. I was out watering my withering hydrangeas, minding my own business, when her shadow stretched across my lawn. "Oh, hello, Jack," she crooned, voice sugary and sharp at the same time, like a lemon tart left out in the sun. She didn't even try to hide her distaste as she glanced at my Stallion E and then zeroed in on the charger, lips pinched like she'd bitten into something rotten. "It's just industrial, don't you think? A little cold, a little ugly," she said, that word ugly hanging in the air like a bad smell. I bit my tongue, trying not to laugh. I mean, who gets emotional about a charger? But this is Pleasant Valley, and apparently, here, even electricity has to pass a beauty contest. 3 days later, I get the envelope, the kind of envelope you don't open, you interrogate. Heavy stock, HOA logo, all caps notice of violation. I'd breached Bylaw 7, Section F, unapproved exterior modification. It said, my charger was aesthetically discordant with the harmonious streetscape. I had 30 days to remedy the violation, signed with Carol's signature looping like a seismograph during a 6.2 quake. The war had officially begun. I wanted to go full scorched earth, maybe paint my house lime green, pave the lawn, install a 12-foot inflatable gorilla holding a Carol is a Philistine sign. But I calmed down. I'm an engineer, after all. I fight my battles with spreadsheets and logic, not lawn ornaments. So I did my homework. Built a PowerPoint. Seriously, slides, transitions, mock-ups, the works. I even designed a wooden lattice box for the charger, dressed it up in digital vines, the kind of thing you'd see on the cover of Better Homes and Gardens, Suburban Edition. The showdown went down in Carol's garage, which looked less like a workspace and more like an operating room for inanimate objects. I laid out my presentation, Gerald and Marge from the HOA nodding and knitting along while Carol sat there, arms crossed, already loading another chamber of passive aggression. I presented solution after solution, the lattice box, the painted utility cabinet, you name it. Carol shot them all down, citing obscure subparagraphs like she'd written the Magna Carta herself. Even my backup plans got picked apart. Apparently, a secondary attached structure needs a 3-month architectural review, and the vines could damage the siding. I pointed out that her own mailbox post was over the legal limit by half an inch, but, you know, logic has a way of bouncing off people like Carol. So yeah, that was the end of diplomacy. Time to dig in. I started combing through the HOA bylaws at night, whiskey in hand, eyes burning under the desk lamp. It's a 200-page epic, like the Dead Sea Scrolls if they'd been written by people with a vendetta against lawn flamingos and non-regulation mulch. I read horror stories online, got ideas from other poor souls in HOA jail, but I didn't want to sink to the level of planting weeds or painting my house the world's ugliest approved color. I wanted something better. Then, deep into a bourbon-soaked Thursday, I landed on a website selling old gas station memorabilia, and there it was, a 1950s Wayne 55 gas pump, all cherry red curves and chrome, with a glowing glass globe on top. It hit me like a lightning bolt. Thematic ornaments of a historical or whimsical nature. That's what the bylaws called out as allowed. No mention of decade, no rule against a 6-foot-tall hunk of mid-century Americana on your lawn, as long as it wasn't functional. But what if it was? You see where this is going. I'd gut the pump, mount my charger inside, and run the cable through a vintage hose. Pure 21st century electricity in a 20th century shell. I would comply with the rules, maliciously and magnificently. I put out a call for help, found Frank, a local legend with a beard like a steel wool brush and hands that looked like they could bend railroad tracks. He loved the idea. Son, I'll do it for half price. This is a public service. We scoured a field of rusty relics until we found our canvas. A battered 1954 Gilbarco, the Mona Lisa of lawn ornaments. We poured a concrete pad, and immediately, Carol materialized at the property line, grilling me like a detective at a crime scene. It's a base for a very stable lawn ornament, I told her, smiling. Wouldn't want it to tip in the wind. HOA rules and all. She called the city, said I was building a secret fuel depot. Code enforcement came. Dave, the most tired city official I've ever met, took one look and said, "Lady, it's a garden statue." I got the all clear. Carol got nothing but a fresh dose of frustration. Then the real fun started. Frank and I spent weeks grinding, welding, painting, and wiring. The whole neighborhood watched, some curious, some rooting for me, a couple probably betting on how long until I snapped. Carol, meanwhile, dialed up the drama, calling the police over dangerous welding, who showed up, listened to the story, and ended up giving me a thumbs up. By now, half the neighborhood was in on the joke. Finally, the day came. We rolled out the finished pump, cherry red and gleaming like a fire truck at a parade. The crowd gathered, Carol front and center with her phone ready to record my defeat. I yanked the tarp off. Gasps, applause. The thing looked better than new, globe glowing, chrome sparkling. I plugged in my Stallion E. The digital display flickered to life, and the globe lit up. 21st century electrons, 1950s style. Carol lost it. That's a fire hazard. That's illegal, she screeched, storming across the street. I calmly flipped open the bylaws. It's a thematic ornament, Carol. 6 feet, non-permanent, historical nature, every box checked. Gerald, the nodding board member, stepped forward, laid a hand on the pump, and said, "Well, I rather like it. Adds character." And just like that, the spell broke. Carol retreated, her reign of beige terror crumbling before a chorus of neighbors snapping pictures and high-fiving. A week later, she resigned. Gerald took over, streamlined the rules, and suddenly, Pleasant Valley didn't feel so oppressive. People stopped to chat, swapped stories, even took prom pictures with the pump. Frank got a few commissions, became a minor local celebrity. Now I sit on my porch with a glass of the good whiskey, my Stallion E glowing under the light of the pump, a beacon in the twilight. Carol's house is for sale, and there's peace in Pleasant Valley at last. I didn't want a war. I just wanted to charge my car. But sometimes the only way to fight nonsense is with a little beautiful, inspired nonsense of your own. You know what I mean? You can't reason with people who don't care about logic. Sometimes you just have to outcreate them. So here's to Frank, to creativity, to the absurd, and to the future, which turns out, sometimes looks a whole lot better when it's dressed up as the past. What do you think? Honestly, was I right to go that far, or did I just start a different kind of war? Let me know below. Who do you think was really in the wrong? What's the line between keeping order and just being a pain in the neck? Sound off. I want to hear your stories.